children as beneficiaries of our different accounts and the troubles that we can get into. So let's start at the beginning. Let's say we have a very vanilla situation. Our loved one has passed away. They have named an individual. What happens if you are the named beneficiary of an account?
Yeah, so let's pretend that all of your children are adults, so you have 2 kids, they're both adults. You want to send some assets to them without having to use probate or probating your will. You can list them as beneficiaries on a financial account, on an IRA, on an annuity, on life insurance. You can and should probably list adult children that should receive those funds outright. What happens when you pass away? Let's say I have a $10,000 life insurance policy and I've listed both of my kids 50-50 as the beneficiaries. They will, when I pass away, call the life insurance company. They'll notify the life insurance company of my death. They'll be asked to send in a death certificate, usually a certified original, but not always. You can get the instructions from them. The life insurance will send claim packets directly to the beneficiaries, to the last known address that they had. So good side tip here is to always make sure you keep your beneficiaries up to date with name and address. But the life insurance company won't necessarily give me information when I'm calling to notify. They're just going to start their process and send claim forms to the beneficiaries. Then the adult beneficiaries will get their own claim form. They'll submit it with their information, their social, whatever information the company asks for, and they'll submit that back. And then the life insurance company will send each adult child directly a check for $5,000 made to child A and child B.
So the key word in all that is you kept saying adult beneficiary, adult child.
I did.
Right. So we're all presuming, and I promise you, everyone's hoping that when you pass away, your named beneficiaries are adults. If instead you have named folks who are minors, now we find ourselves in different territory because these third parties will not be sending those checks directly to minors because minors can't own the property. They can't sign for it. They can't fill those forms out.
Exactly.
They can't manage or possess the funds. If that is to happen, if there's a minor involved, those third parties are going to require a proceeding, a separate guardianship proceeding, a guardianship of a minor. That is where there'll have to be an applicant. They'll have to go to court. A guardian, an attorney ad litem will be appointed to look at the case. The court will be involved. Much quicker when you're simply an adult, fill out the forms required by the insurance companies, and they send a check. If we have to do a separate proceeding, you're talking costs, delays. It could be a matter of months. And I mean, in Gregg County, in our East Texas, we're pretty quick. I would not want to be in a big city having to go through this process. So you simply take what was meant to be a nice bequest for a grandchild, and now a large slice of that funds are going to be spent on attorneys, fees, costs, third parties. The court's now involved. The money is set aside. Someone goes through the process of being appointed by the court. And of course, then those funds are managed through the court. And then you do all that, and at age 18, suddenly those funds have been set aside, now become available to that 18-year-old child. And, I met a lot of, not a nice 18-year-olds.
What were you like at 18?
Yeah, right. There are some folks who probably could handle money when they're 10, and there's some people that could be 100, and it doesn't fix the problem. Yeah. So an 18-year-old, you give an 18-year-old a bunch of money, you're going to find out quickly they like fast cars and they make poor decisions because that would be coming. So if that is your plan, you have really given up control. You've brought the court system into it for a limited amount of time, which has increased the cost. So having said all that, Kristen, if someone comes to you, and I'm just thinking your typical husband and wife, they're very nice, they have a very normal family, just a boring vanilla situation, but they got 2 minor children, what would you recommend?
Sure. So the correct way to set that up is, just to be real clear, do not ever list a minor beneficiary on any of your paperwork. There's really never a time to do that. So the correct way to do that is to include in your estate plan, whether that's through a will or through a revocable living trust. If you want to provide something for a minor, it needs to be in trust to the minor. So that can be crafted. You can still leave it to them at 18, but if my will said I leave everything in equal shares to these 3 minor kids, I need to name a trustee until they're of an appropriate age. At my death then, my beneficiary needs to say estate or nothing, because then it will come into my estate, and what that means is my executor will probate my will. will be appointed as the executor. The judge will admit my will to probate. I will have hired an attorney. I will open an estate, a bank account, and those funds will come into the estate account, less expenses. Then the executor will divide into 3 trusts for my minor kids, and then the trustee from that point will manage for them. Most plans include trusts that aren't for 18, but are more for either age 25 or 30. You can really pick any age that you want. You can pick it to distribute in any way that you want. So it might be 25% of the total goes at 25, 25% at 30, 25% at 35. Whatever you want it to be can be done, but it does have to be done correctly. I think many people just don't realize they want this person to be a beneficiary. Could be a minor, could be an adult, but they don't want them to manage the funds themselves. Well, that has to be done correctly then. You cannot list a name as a beneficiary. They will get that check directly, and there's nothing you can do to change it if you've put them on there. So even if you do the right planning in your will or trust, you need to make sure that the beneficiary designations match. And the error we want to just make sure you hear us saying today is do not list minor beneficiaries on those accounts. That will create a probate that costs money and an attorney. That will create a guardianship for each minor child. So typically when we deal with these, it's more than one minor child that's been listed. So you may end up with 3 probate cases. That's a new case, new filing fees, new attorney fees, and with the guardianship, you have an ongoing annual accounting to the court, and the funds are generally held. They're not generally distributed for the benefit of the minor until they're 18, and then the child just walks in and takes a chunk of money, which is, yeah, you should have just not listed them at all.
And just to add to that, because I have seen a lot of families say, "Oh, well, Chris, we don't want to do that trust route because we wouldn't even know who to name as trustees."
Sure.
I mean, yes, there are times when it's very appropriate to have a corporate trustee, a professional trustee. Here in East Texas, we have some great local banks, CPAs. There's all sorts of people who can provide that service. If it's a smaller amount and you have trusted family or friends, you can name them to be the trustee. Being a trustee is not necessarily the world's hardest job. It's simply a job responsibility. If you have someone who's responsible in your life that would make that gap coverage, and heaven forbid something happen to you, till the children of appropriate age, that might be something to consider. And you can name multiple trustees. So you can say, hey, my friend Sarah, responsible, great person, I'll have her there. If she can't do it, then I'm going to pick my favorite financial institution here in town, and I'll put them next. And you can have multiple backups to serve in that unexpected but very important role. So some people are, oh, trust or two. Absolutely not. At the right time, a trust is very important, and don't let the trustee name or a supposed cost scare you, because that's not a reason to be scared of these.
Right. You're really trying to replace yourself. So if you died suddenly, who would you want to step into your shoes to provide for that minor child, to provide for that minor grandchild? Because I doubt you just give them a $100,000 check at the time, right? Yeah. So you're really trying to replace yourself. Who would make the same kind of decisions that I would make in supporting this minor, so I can make sure that they achieve fiscal responsibility and make sure that all their medical and educational needs are paid for. So, yeah, very important, very, very important to do correctly, and will help those that you leave behind with less stress. Yep. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.